Hey guys, it's the third one that I'm doing. It's a scary story. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying these stories, and it's Reddit, so we've got creative people. This is your girl Nisi, and let's just get into it. Okay, we've got The Reflection by Squidly Boy 21. Tucked away in the rural countryside of the Pacific Northwest was a quaint, isolated house surrounded by dense pine forests. The house had been abandoned for years, but recently a young couple named Sarah and Tom had bought it, eager to escape the chaos of city life. The house was old, with creaking wooden floors, walls that seemed to groan under weight of time, but it had charm, and that's what drew them in. From the moment they moved in, Sarah felt a strange presence. She would often catch something moving out of the corner of her eye, but when she turned, there was nothing there. Tom dismissed her concerns, chalking up to the stress of the move, but the feeling persisted. One evening, as Sarah was unpacking boxes in the bedroom, she discovered an old, full length mirror tucked away in a corner, covered in a dusty sheet. It was ornate with a frame of twisted dark wood that seemed to absorb the light. Curious, she pulled it off the sheet and stood in front of the mirror, admiring its craftsmanship. As she gazed at her reflection, something seemed to be off. The reflection was perfect, almost too perfect. Every detail was precise, but the eyes, they seemed to hold a depth that hers didn't. They were darker, more knowing. She leaned in closer, scrutinizing her reflection, but for a brief moment she swore she saw it smile, but her lips hadn't moved. She had stepped back. "Tom!" she called, her voice trembling. Tom came upstairs, and Sarah explained that what had happened. He laughed it off, though he couldn't hide the unease in his eyes as he glanced at the mirror. "It's just an old mirror, babe. You're probably just tired." But that night, as they lay in bed, Sarah couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the mirror. Finally, unable to rest, she slipped out of bed and returned to the bedroom. The moonlight streamed through the window, casting an eerie glow on the mirror. She stood in front of it again, heart pounding. This time she didn't see her reflection immediately. Instead, there was a shadowy figure standing behind her, barely visible, almost like a dark fog. Her breath caught in her throat and she spun around, but there was nothing there. When she had turned back to the mirror, the reflection had returned, but it was different. The eyes were not hers anymore. They were darker, cold, filled with malice. And then it smiled. Not a normal smile, but a twister, sinister grin. That sent shivers down her spine. Suddenly, the reflection moved. It lifted its hand, and Sarah's own hand moved in sync, though she wasn't controlling it. She tried to pull away, but she was frozen, trapped in the mirror's gaze. The reflection began to laugh, a low, guttural sound that resonated in her mind. Desperate, Sarah tore her eyes away and ran back to bed, waking Tom in a panic. "We have to get rid of that mirror," she cried. Tom, seeing her terror, reluctantly agreed. The next morning, they hauled the mirror out of the house, into the woods, far away from their home. They left it leaning against a tree, hoping never to see it again. But that night, as they lay in bed, there was a knock on the door. Tom grabbed a flashlight and went to investigate. He opened the door. There was nothing, just the cold night air. But then he saw it, leaning against the porch, as if it had been there all along. The mirror. Tom's blood ran cold. He didn't tell Sarah, not wanting to frighten her more. Instead, he decided to take the mirror deeper into the forest the next day, where no one would find it. The next night, Sarah dreamed of the mirror. In her dream, she stood before it again. This time, her reflection didn't move, stayed perfectly still as Sarah reached out to touch the glass. As soon as her fingers met the surface, the reflection's hand shot out of the mirror, grabbing her wrist with a grip like ice. She screamed, but no sound came out. The reflection began to pull her into the mirror, its eyes glowing with the sickening light. She woke up in a cold sweat, her heart racing. Beside her, Tom was still asleep, but something was wrong. His breathing was shallow, his skin was pale. She shook him, but he didn't respond. His eyes fluttered open, but they were vacant, unseeing. Panicking, Sarah called for an ambulance. They took Tom to the hospital, but the doctors were baffled. There was nothing physically wrong with him, yet he wouldn't wake up. It was as if his mind had been taken somewhere else, leaving his body behind. Alone in the house, Sarah felt the weight of the mirror's presence, even though it was no longer there. The air was thick with a sense of dread, and every shadow seemed to whisper her name. She knew the mirror was responsible. It wanted something. No, it wanted someone. Desperate to save Tom, Sarah returned to the woods, searching for the mirror. She found it where Tom had left it, leaning against a tree, almost as if it had been waiting for her. With trembling hands, she touched the glass. This time, the reflection didn't smile. It stared at her with empty eyes. She felt a pull, an irresistible force drawing her closer. She fought it, but it was no use. The mirror's surface rippled like water before she could have screamed and engulfed her. Inside the mirror, everything was cold and dark. She could see the outside world, but it was distant, like looking through a window. She saw her own body standing motionless before the mirror. Slowly, her reflection turned away and began to walk back to the house, leaving her trapped inside. She screamed, pounded on the glass, but no one could hear her. The reflection now had control, living her life while she was imprisoned in the mirror's depths. As the day passed, the reflection grew more twisted. It drove Tom to madness, tormenting until he was the shell of the man he once was. When it was done with him, it moved on, leaving the house to search for its next victim. And Sarah? She remains trapped in the mirror, waiting and hoping someone will find it and set her free. But she knows the truth. No one ever escapes the mirror. It doesn't just show your reflection, it takes it, leaving you behind to watch as it lives your life, twisting everything you love into darkness. Okay, guys, that one was chilling but quick. It was a lot different than the other ones. If you liked it, go ahead, give that Reddit story a upvote. Just give this story a like. Maybe subscribe to the channel. See you guys next time. Peace out.